I've been told I'm too ambitious, too emotional, too intense, too dramatic, basically too much of everything. Here's what I think about that now. I'm always considered too loud. It started when I was a kid and I was playing. I was just a kid playing. Okay, kids are wild, kids are loud. It is the way it is. But all the people who raised me were like, shh, not too loud. What will the neighbors say? Da-da-da, you can't scream in the playground. Well, if I cannot even scream in the playground, then what is it there for? And I tried so hard to silence myself and to be quiet. And you know what that led me to? When I birthed my disabled daughter and I was plunged into this mess and myriads of appointments and paperwork and new people that I have to talk to, doctors, nurses, therapists, officials from different institutions that provide aids or whatever. You know what happened? I stayed silent, and that was the worst thing that could have happened to my daughter. Why did I stay silent? Because I had trained myself to stay silent, because I had trained myself to believe that other people know better what is good and right and what I should be doing and what I should not be doing. And that meant I put my daughter, my disabled daughter, is not only physically but also mentally disabled, meaning she perceives things in a different way and she cannot understand most things that other kids her age understand, regardless of which age she was in. And I put her through immense amount of stress because I followed every piece of advice that I was given. I took every appointment that was recommended. I made her do every examination that the doctors and nurses saw fit without saying a word. But luckily, that only lasted a few months. Then I slowly started to get my voice back on her behalf because she is my kid, she is my baby. And I invested so much in fostering our relationship and in creating a close bond, because that was and is the thing that she understands best. Bonding, being there for her, being together with her, spending time with her, giving love through actions. That's what she understands, and that's what I worked on. And through that, we both developed an intense rapport with each other. And I could feel immediately when we were going into a situation, not only that she was unhappy, I mean, which kid is happy about going to the doctor? But I could feel when she was upset and when it was just not right and good for her. And that transmitted into me. I felt the same discomfort. I felt the same sense that things were wrong. And I began to call them out. I began to say, we're not taking the appointment at 12 o'clock because that's lunchtime, and getting food into my daughter is more important than the appointment, because eating is like her biggest challenge ever in all the challenges that she faces. I said, oh, we're not doing this appointment at all because we have done it 5 times in a row now, 5 months in a row, and it has given us exactly nothing. And my daughter progressed anyways. I said, no, I'm not having her induced into a comatose state just for an examination that cannot be done when she's awake and wriggling around and everything, because the methods of examination that were available for when she was awake, we've used them and we repeated them many times, and nothing ever showed that would prompt some kind of action, which usually meant some kind of surgery, because guess what? That's how hospitals make money. And that's another thing I realized when I started to speak up. Not only that people were against it, that they were suddenly, especially all the medical professionals that we talked to, that most of them felt uncomfortable because I challenged that belief of the demigods in white who know everything. They may know everything about their field of medicine, but they do not know everything about my daughter, especially not after meeting her for 5 minutes when I'm the one who spends time with her 24/7. And I also began to realize, or I began to think about, why is it making them so uncomfortable? I didn't expect that, because I thought, people in hospitals when you have some kind of health problem, medical problem, you're always kind of upset and uncomfortable and not in your best mood and your best spirit. Saying no costs the hospitals money. They are not only recommending things that are actually good for you or your kid or whomever you're advocating for. They are trying to recommend the things that gets the hospital money, money, always sunny in a rich man's world. And I bet the doctors are making a lot more than what the nurses make or what I made when I was still in corporate and so on. But that's another story. And then I realized there's another layer. They are not used to this kind of behavior. They are used to people being silenced, because then it happened to me and my daughter at the very beginning of her life outside my belly. Then they can recommend and do all the things that makes the hospital money. And I made them uncomfortable because I was costing them money, and because I was putting my daughter's not only health, but my daughter's well-being before their recommendations and before their treatments. I could go on and on about this. But the point is, if I were meeting one of you in person, and maybe you were going through a similar story, that you had to learn to advocate for another person in a way you've never done before in your life, this is what I would tell you, especially if it's about your kid. When you're a first-time parent, you read up all and you ask people, about diapers and how to clean the belly button and how to treat a red butt and how often to breastfeed and what to do with your breasts when the milk is not moving properly and all those things. And they are all important. One more thing is important that nobody teaches. Learn to advocate for yourself and your kid. Get back in sync with yourself. Feel and allow yourself to let the emotions come up. What is good and right for you and your kid or the person you're advocating for, and what does not feel good, and speak up about it. Practice it on camera, practice it in the mirror, practice it with your kid's stuffy, whatever there is, but get loud. And if you have a story where you got loud and you got called out on it, share it in the comments. Let's celebrate those wins together.